Oh, hey everyone. Welcome to another episode of First Canada Live. We're back in action here, season 4. Lots of things happening right now. It's a great time. And I think to get things get started, as Canadians, it is important to recognize the land of which we are a part. As we gather for this meeting, physically dispersed and virtually constructed, let us take a moment to reflect upon the meaning of place, and in doing so, recognize the various traditional lands on which we celebrate today. We acknowledge the elders and youth, past, present, and emerging, of all the land on which we work and live. We honor the ancestral spirits with gratitude and respect. We acknowledge this land out of respect for the Indigenous nations who have cared for Turtle Island, also called North America. The Indigenous people have been gifted the role of caretakers of this land before the arrival of settler peoples until today. But most importantly, we remember the history of these lands and the people that have been tainted by poor treatment and a lack of friendship with the First Nations who called Canada home before it was given this name. This history is something that everyone is affected by. We are all treaty people in Canada. We all have a shared history to reflect upon, and each of us is affected by this history in different ways. Our past defines our present, but if we move forward as friends and allies, it does not define our future. All right, folks, we're here for another episode of First Canada Live. I'm your host, Karthik, and we have a great show in store for you today. But to get us started with this show, let's welcome our co-host for today's show, a student on First Robotics Competition Team 403939, All-Spark 9 out of Brampton, Ontario, represented, and a member of the First Canada Youth Council. Welcome, Shorya. Hey, Shorya, how are you doing?
Hi, Karthik. I'm good. How are you?
I am feeling really good. It's it's the fall. It's almost Halloween, so it's like that good time of year. Almost Halloween though, Shorya. It gets me thinking of a common interest we have, Stranger Things. It's just like the best show out there. Who is your favorite character on Stranger Things?
Steve.
Yes, it is all of us, Steve, right?
No spoilers, but I'm so glad he didn't die this season.
That is totally a spoiler. You can't just say no spoilers and then
people should have watched it by now.
Oh boy, I apologize in advance if you haven't seen season 4, but well, now you know Steve lives. Steve is the best. He's so underrated too. I think he started off underrated. I think now people kind of recognize that Steve is great. The Steve and Dustin bromance, like my favorite thing.
I love it.
I love that too. We talk about First, and like what's so cool about First is mentorship. That's like mentorship right there. Like he's like the youth mentor for Dusty Bun.
I love them together.
All right, we'll come back to more Stranger Things throughout the show. We might have to ask everyone this question. But things are going well. School year is going good for you?
Yeah, it's going pretty good. It's a little stressful being a grade 12, thinking about scholarships and university application.
Hey, speaking of scholarships, we're going to be talking scholarships on today's show. We're going to have past winner of the First Canada Skills Trade Scholarship on, as well as some folks from First Canada, just talk about all the opportunities that are out there. There's a lot of scholarships out there for first students, right, Shorya?
A lot.
It's probably overwhelming. You're probably doing like so many applications right now.
Very overwhelming, yeah.
Yeah, it's going to be busy, but I think later on in November, actually, we got a panel of some past youth council members coming on to talk scholarships. So that'll be a neat one to look at. So on today's show, we're going to be talking scholarships. We're also going to be talking about the first Hall of Fame, about the Impact Award, the award formerly known as the Chairman's Award. So we're going to talk a little bit about the name change and also some of the myths of the Impact Award, because I think a lot of people think there's like so much like, oh, we have to do this to win the award, but who better than members of the first Hall of Fame? These are teams that have won the Impact Award, Chairman's Award at the first championship to give some advice. So that's going to be really exciting. For everyone who's tuning in out there right now, if you have any questions for us throughout the show, drop them into the Twitch chat. We will be happy to try and answer them. And just remember, we're here to celebrate excellence in our community and have some fun. So let's bring the positivity, let's bring the energy. It'll be a good time. Hey, speaking of a good time, it's time for our Youth Council Wellness Moment. We've been doing this for a while now, and it's a really cool way to kind of just like step back and think about things we can do to just make our lives a little bit easier and make our lives feel better. So, Shorya, what are you talking about today?
Yeah, so as a student who's quite involved in a bunch of extracurricular inside of school and outside of school, I highly recommend all students to join extracurricular activities as well. I've noticed that like when you're stressed with school or like you're just stressed with something overall, it's like a nice thing to go to and it clear your mind. It's like a nice way to meet new friends and like honestly, it's like a great way to explore some passions that you never even thought you had. And like an example is like the youth council, best extracurricular I've joined so far.
So sorry, what's your favorite? Because most of our students who are watching today, they do first. That's one of their extracurriculars. But what's your favorite non-first extracurricular activity?
So I'm actually in something called Link Crew at school, and it's
Okay.
basically where the grade 12s and 11s take a role of leadership in the school, and
Yeah.
we take the grade 9s under our wing. So we basically like show them around, like we're kind of role models for them, and which is really nice.
So for me, when I was in high school, I was on the yearbook committee, and I was the yearbook editor in high school, in my grade 13 year, because high school was longer back then, and it was just it was so much fun. I loved it. Like, making a yearbook was like fine, like photography and stuff that was cool, but it was just like I met so many awesome friends and just like hanging out, and like when a group of people are working together on a really big project, it's always a good time when it's something you're all passionate about. So I highly recommend that out there. I know first students are so busy because robots take a lot of time, but it's so good to try out a different extracurricular every year. Just to you meet more people, and like you said, it's a nice way to distress, and it doesn't stop when you get to university. I actually think it's really, really important to try and do something in university, because it's so easy to get siloed into just like that. I go to class, I come home, I study, and like you don't actually meet people outside of your classes, and it can be harder to meet people. So I think that's some great, great advice. Is there one club you always wanted to join, but you didn't find a way?
Mm, I'm not sure.
Okay,
I
so
kind of
you
joined a
managed to
lot.
do everything you
Yeah,
wanted to do. There you go.
I think so.
No regrets right there, Shorya. It's a good way to be. All right. Well, thank you for that Youth Council Wellness moment. Time to talk about the news updates. What's going on in the world of First Robotics Canada? There's our show every 2 weeks. So tune in for First Canada Live. Hey, make sure you subscribe to our channel and turn on notifications so you'll get a little alert. I got a little alert on my phone just now before we went live. So it's really convenient, because you might forget what's going on. Then be like, oh yeah, First Canada Live. Of course I want to tune in. I want to see what Shorya is up to. I want to get the Stranger Things update. I want to be spoiled and miss out on our season 4.
Sorry.
Oh, it's all good. It's all good. We'll see. I like watched it like right away, first weekend.
Me too. I mean, my sister stayed up till 3 a.m. just wait for it to come out.
Were you one of the people who stayed up at the youth summit watching it?
Yeah.
Yeah. I think that was you and Zoe, right?
Yeah.
Yeah,
We kind of
that's
started from season 1 again.
pardon.
We started from season 1.
Oh, you went all the way back.
Yeah.
So I hear they're not going to be doing season 5 until 2024, which like makes me sad, because that's so long. I can't wait. And also, like, these are not kids anymore. They're gonna like they're all like adults, which is a little confusing. But I'm gonna have
After
to
the way it ended, I can't wait now.
well, it was such a cliffhanger. Like what? Like literally, the town was cut in half. Like it's not even a
I
small one.
know.
Yeah. Okay, we'll talk more Stranger Things. We gotta get into the show. More news updates. Hey, folks, if you're wondering what's going on with events in Canada this year, in-person events are back, full capacity, no limits on who can come. Sorry, you can go to every event you want this year. Isn't that kind of pretty awesome?
Yeah.
Yeah. Masks are mandatory and vaccination is strongly recommended. Shorya, you volunteered at a few events last year, right?
Yeah, I've volunteered at Humber, York, and Provincials.
What was that experience like?
It was my first time actually attending a first event, like
Oh,
other
right,
than
right.
FLL.
Yeah,
And it was honestly one of the best experiences ever. Like I met so many new people, and like I got to meet youth council members in person, which
right.
was so unreal.
Yeah, volunteering is like a special side of the events. I really recommend it this year. Like for, there's some people out there whose teams aren't competing this year, or some people, you'll have extra events that you have time in your schedule, like maybe over the March break, or anything like that. Head on to an event. It is a good time volunteering. Plus the food's pretty good, right?
Very good.
You can't argue with free food.
Yeah.
Sorry, did you know that there's an Ontario team Slack for teams to network in and ask questions?
Yeah, I actually did know.
Yeah, that's right out there. And so have you been in there? Do you have an account on there?
Yeah, I'm already in it.
Yeah, so like pretty useful, you say?
Very useful. Yeah.
Yeah,
You
I
could
think
talk to so many alumni.
yeah, I think it's really neat for like, especially, you're working on your robot and like something's not going right and you're like, oh, what could this be? Drop a question in there, and there's like an army of folks who will like line up to answer it. So Sarah is going to drop the link in chat right now to join the Slack. And for our alumni who are tuned in, we have a new First Robotics Canada alumni LinkedIn group. It's not actually new, it's been there for a while, but we're hyping it up a little bit more. So if you are alumni, that means you have graduated high school and you were a member of one of the first programs, join the LinkedIn alumni group. And so Shorya, like after provincials this year, like you'll be able to like hop right in there. You know, I think we're gonna be doing something special for the alumni of provincials this year. So it'll be good. Shorya, have you seen the More Than Robots campaign yet?
I actually haven't.
Okay, so this is cool. You know, and you kind of touched on this about extracurriculars at school, why it's so important to do them, because sometimes you don't really know where you fit in. And I think also often when we're all young, society starts to place us in boxes. So it's like, oh, well, you're a girl, you should be this way. Oh, you're Indian, you should be this way, you know, and you kind of are like forced to be a stereotype and you kind of don't really know who you are. And one of the coolest things I've always found with the first team is you can be whoever you want to be and you can be yourself and you have that freedom. And wouldn't it be cool if everyone had that opportunity? Because I know how stressful high school can be when you're just trying to be what everyone wants you to be. And that's kind of what the More Than Robots campaign talks about and kind of the power of first. So let's take a look at this video to learn more about More Than Robots.
It's interesting how people tend to label other people without even knowing them, especially in school.
I was kind of struggling finding like my self-identity because I was like too black for the white kids, whatever.
When people first meet me, they think I'm a super mean, loud person. Some of them say I have an intimidating look.
They assume that I'm a girl.
An alien from outer space.
I'm a nerd because I read like a lot of books.
Everyone always thinks I'm always happy, and that's not always the case.
Constantly being told that I just won't succeed in school because I have ADHD, or that I just need to make it up to a passing grade, and if so, then everybody will be happy. I have talked to my mentor, who is a doctor, and she has helped show me which direction I need to go in. The assistant teacher in my class, his name is Mr. Josh, and he's like really nice.
My math teacher has showed me it's okay to ask questions. It's okay to not know the answer to stuff.
Probably my mom affects my choices the most.
Because things are constantly evolving, we're learning so much, and if I only exposed her to what I am knowledgeable of, then I limit her.
I think it's important that she has someone other than me. She's this recipe, and I don't want it to come from one kitchen. Brayla, I want you to know that you're more than enough, and never forget it.
As a young black male, I don't want him to be a statistic. So whatever he wants to try, whatever he's interested in, I just don't want him to be in a box. I just would like to let him know he's more than he could ever think of, you know, be you.
The whole last couple of years have been really hard. I want Charlie to find their place, their confidence. More STEM programs gives them the opportunity to try on different hats, because that's really all that growing up is. It's not knowing everything, it's trying your hand at all these different things and figuring out what sticks.
I want to help the environment, so I need to make materials that are good, because a lot of trees are getting knocked down, I noticed.
I know it would have to have something with mechanical and engineering, like aerospace engineering, geoengineering.
I really love computer science. I think I want to be like a coder or a game developer.
I want to be a forensics investigator.
Doctor, detective, and a pilot. Oh, and a nurse. Just making sure I'm not missing anything.
You just need to find out what works for you, because you work in a way that is so unique and is so special.
I can be more than one thing. Like, I don't have to fit into a specific category to make anyone comfortable.
I'm more than just a trans kid.
I am more than where I'm from.
I am more than the limitations of my past.
More than the limitations of my parents.
We made over 8,000 face and eye shields for our local community.
I am more than the limitations of my age.
What is something that we could do to help our community with? And that ended up being the grocery delivery robot.
I am more than what you think you know.
More than what you see.
And when you see that I'm more than,
that's when I become me. love you.
Well, that's pretty cool, right, Shorya?
Yeah, super emotional.
Right, and it's neat because that's what our programs do. They offer a space for people. There's so much good that happens to them with skills development, confidence development, having the opportunity to compete, but at its core, it gives everyone a place to fit in. And I think that's really important because I think everyone needs that. And so, it's pretty cool to be a part of. All right, we are going to get started with our guests. But before we do that, we're going to take a look at a word from one of our sponsors, Centerline. All right, we're back. I want to welcome our first guest. First off, she is the Vice President of Partnerships for First Robotics Canada and 2016 Woody Flowers Finalist Award winner, Arti Javeri is here. Hey, Arti, it's been a while since we've had you on the show.
It has. Hello, Karthik. It has been a long time. Yes. Yeah. Well, we're on this, like I said, 75th episode. We're going to reach the 100th soon.
Yeah, if we counted correctly, we might have missed one in there somewhere. And also returning to the show, or maybe it's the first time on the show, communications specialist at First Robotics Canada, Joanna Whitney. Joanna, have you been on before?
I have never been on, Karthik.
Well, welcome to the show, Joanna. It's about time. We should have done this much sooner. Thanks for being here. And we have one of our past winners of the Build a Dream Skill Trade Scholarship from the 2022 season, an alum of First Robotics Competition Team 6865 Manitoulin Medal, Lindsay Sheppard is here. Hey, Lindsay.
Hello.
Live from Fanshawe, right?
Yeah, I'm here at Fanshawe. I'm in an electrical engineering program. I got my scholarship last year in the 2022 season.
That's right. We announced that one at provincials, right?
Yes, I got it at provincials. Yeah.
Very, very cool. So, Arti, we're here to talk scholarships, but specifically for the skilled trades. And we know the skilled trades are so important across Canada right now. We need more people going into the skilled trades to kind of maintain the society we have. There's a lot of need, and it's also just a cool place to be because the jobs are fun, the jobs are exciting, and there's good money to be made. So, Arti, what scholarships are available for the skilled trades from First Canada?
So before we dive into just the skilled trades, I just want everybody that's listening to know that we have a lot of scholarships available. Almost 80 million in scholarships are available for students across Canada for universities and colleges and for secondary education within US and Canada. So check it out. But these are available for all students that are looking to get into post-secondary, whether it's universities, colleges, and we additionally at First Canada partner with some of our donors, our sponsors, our partners, to bring specific scholarships like the Skilled Trades Scholarship to Canadian students. And, anybody that's listening who's in grade 12 should definitely not forget to keep checking up your sources, especially the First Canada website, as well as the First Inspire site, and look for scholarships that are available for these. So definitely, check out. We are offering the Skilled Trades Scholarship today, and we'll be talking more about that today.
All right, Shorya, do you have a question for Arti?
Yeah, so what is Build a Dream?
Build a Dream. We actually partner with Build a Dream organization. They're a nonprofit organization that, just like First, believes in advancing diversity and inclusion. And they started in 2014 in Windsor, Ontario, and they deliver programs to inspire young women, providing confidence, filling workspace gaps and offering workspace problem solving seminars. They collaborate with speakers, community leaders, businesses to inspire female students, women, and underrepresented communities throughout through their virtual conferences, career expos, workshops, different hands-on programs. So they're an organization just like us, promoting and diversity and inclusion. So it was very natural for First Canada to kind of collaborate with them, and both of us are dedicated in advancing EDI in this space. So it became kind of a natural fit to Build a Dream on board to get the scholarship for skilled trades.
This is very cool. It's been a great partnership for sure. So how many scholarships have been given out in the past?
Yeah, so right now this is our third year with the scholarships. So basically what we're doing is every year we give away 2 scholarships per year to a female student who is interested in pursuing an education in skilled trades. So far we've given away 4, and we're super excited about giving away 2 more in the upcoming year.
And Joanna, what are the requirements for these scholarships?
Sure. So if you're planning to apply, first of all, you have to be a female who has demonstrated strong leadership skills, who loves science and technology, and who wants to sort of motivate positive change in the community. Also, you have to have been part of a FRC or FTC program throughout 2021 or 2022. And of course, you have to be wanting to go into a skilled trade.
And speaking of folks with strong leadership skills and who embody all of the scholarships, we have one of our past scholarship winners on today. And so, Lindsay, I want to know, you mentioned that you're at Fanshawe now studying electrical engineering, but how has the scholarship helped you?
Well, it has helped me to pay for my schooling. So it's pretty difficult moving a long ways away from home, away from home. And to help me live here on campus and be able to attend my classes regularly and pay for my tuition, it helped a lot to get me through my courses so far, and it keeps everything
Yeah, I know it makes things easier, that's for sure. That's what these scholarships are, because we know just getting to post-secondary education is a challenge. There's so much hard work that goes into it, and lots of us have lots of family support and whatever, but these scholarships are there to make things a little bit easier so folks can focus more on their education. And so it's been cool that you've had that opportunity. What made you pursue this specific scholarship? Did your first experience kind of lead you in this direction?
Yes, it did. So from working on the robot back at home, and I never really tried wiring the robot. I was more into the design and manufacturing of it. But then in the last year, I was working with my mentor, Alan Davey. He was teaching me how to wire a robot, and I found that a lot of fun. And then trying to teach the younger students that came in how to wire, it was really enjoyable. So that pushed me further into pursuing an electrical engineering.
Then there you go. You're wiring a robot one day, you're an electrical engineering student the next day. It's a pretty cool story. Lindsay, any advice you have out there for the students who are, in school right now, thinking of the trades or thinking of college or anything like that?
Well, if you're thinking about a trade or college, pursue it, because there's a lot more job opportunities opening up in the trades. So I know for me, I want to work on hydro dams, because I know that's a new and up and coming thing, because to work on our electrical cars and stuff, we need more power, and we want to be natural resource and renewable resources. So and I know there's openings in that, especially for women in the trades, and it's a higher paid job. So all trades, there's an opening for all women that are willing to pursue in the trade that they're going for.
I looked it up today. Only of the skilled trades in Canada, only 5% are women. There is, if we're going to fill this gap, we need to get more people in there. And so, Lindsay, that's pretty cool. I love that you said natural energy, because that's a passion of mine. So that's very cool. Hey, Lindsay, Joanna, Arti, thank you so much for being here. And Joanna, if students want to learn more about these scholarships, where can they go to find the information?
So www.forceroboticscanada.org/scholarships. And this one, sorry, just this one is opening November 2nd and closing February 15th.
I knew you would know that inside and out. I knew that. I was like, that's the right person to ask. Communication specialist right there. Hey, thank you everyone for being on the show. This has been a great discussion. If you want to learn more, check out the URL that Joanna just threw out there. And we will be back with the first Hall of Fame talking about the Impact Award in just a moment after a word from one of our sponsors, 3M.
So FIRST Robotics Competition is the epitome of the robotics competitions here in Canada. It's an opportunity for high school students to get involved in the engineering design of an entire robotic system.
People think robotics is all about building the robot, right? But building the robot is only half the challenge. Building the robot is actually a vehicle for you to build your own self.
For our Canadian manufacturers to stay competitive, there's a lot of automation and robotics that have to go into our manufacturing facilities. So the skills that the kids are learning in this competition hit that mark spot on.
There's definitely the technical ones. You know, I've learned how to do CAD design. I've learned how to work machines. But one of the really, really big ones that I really like is and I think it's really important in this world, is I've learned how to work with a team. Without being able to work as a team going into industry, it's not going to work out.
There are absolutely skills that the students are using today that are things that we use in professional careers that have to do with STEM. They are learning how to communicate. They are learning how to collaborate. They're learning how to think outside the box so that they're not limiting themselves to one thing. They're getting to do coding, marketing, design, engineering, science, the whole 9 yards all together.
It really teaches you all these different skills that you wouldn't think that you would know. It teaches you, how to work with other people, how to do soft skills, communication, teamwork, leadership, all that kind of stuff.
Some of our alumni have gone on to receive excellent scholarships at top-tier universities, and because of that, they've started getting known well by top-tier companies, which allows our brand to carry on as they work for large technological companies in the programming sector, in the automation sector. It's really interesting to see where we end up.
All right, thank you 3M for all your support. All right, Shorya, I think it's time to talk the Impact Award with the first Hall of Fame member. So let's introduce the crew, starting off with Sarah Heimlich from Team 3132 Thunder Down Under from Sydney, Australia. Hall of Fame member since 2017, a first alum, and claim to fame, first person to win both the Dean's List Award and the Woody Flowers Finalist Award. Hey, Sarah, how's it going?
I'm good. How are you?
Good. Third time on the show?
It is, and I was realizing ahead of time, I think it's my third time on the show, but first time not in hotel quarantine. So it's a progress.
There you go. You have a little bit of freedom this time. That's a good thing. Also joining us is Rachel Margolis from Team 1816, the Green Machine from, is it Edina? I always pronounce this wrong. Did I get it right?
Edina, Minnesota.
Edina, Minnesota. It's like you never know with the syllables. A Hall of Fame member since 2019. Welcome, Rachel.
Thank you.
And we have Ruhi Lankalapoli from Team 1902 Exploding Bacon from Orlando, Florida. Oink, oink, boom. First alum, former member team. Ruhi, were you a chairman's presenter on the team, or was that past your time?
Yep, I was a chairman's presenter for all 4 years that I was on the team.
All 4 years. Wow.
Yep, and
what
we were
long-termer.
inducted. Yep, and we were inducted my senior year, so 2019.
Very cool. Where are you now, Ruhi?
I am studying out in California in my final year of my bachelor's degree.
Congratulations. Senioritis hitting you yet?
Oh yeah, definitely.
Okay. That's fair. That's fair. Especially you all have had like the weirdest education with COVID and quarantine and all that sort of stuff. You deserve a little bit of a break here. Take that senior year and just chill.
Yep.
And definitely. Finally, we have two members from our newest Hall of Fame team, Team 1692, GACO from Accident, Maryland. We have Ava Rankin, who's an alum, and Natalie W., current student. Hey, Ava and Natalie.
Hi.
So were you two presenters last year?
Yeah. Yes.
Okay, so we got the goods right now. People who know exactly what's going on. Because I think one of the things we're going to talk about is there's a lot of misconceptions about what this award is. And I think some of those misconceptions come from, I'll admit it, like people like me who were involved in this award about 10 years ago and don't realize that things have changed along the way. There's always changes to the guidelines, changes to the questions, changes to the definitions and the such. So before we get started about, and I know you want to talk about the myths of the Impact Award, I want to ask a question though, because this award used to be called the Chairman's Award, and it is now called the Impact Award. So does one of the Hall of Fame members kind of want to talk about how that change came about and how the Hall of Fame was involved in that change?
So first believe that the chairman's term was limited like a binary term. And in the world that we're in today, it was not inclusive of everyone. And so the Impact Award just includes everyone. That is a really cool change to see because it has kind of more of an impact. Right, Sarah?
Yeah, so first headquarters and came to us in, oh gosh, about a year ago now and said, we really want to make sure that this award is more inclusive and, can the Hall of Fame help us do that? And so we did a lot of brainstorming on different names. We worked with headquarters very closely. And in the end, this was the name that we all agreed on. Because the Impact Award is really about making an impact in your community. And that's one of the things that I think you're going to hear a few times as we go through these different messages. It's all about, where's the impact and showing that you're making an impact in our global community.
One of the things I really liked about the name change was not only that it's much more inclusive, like that was a must that had to happen, but when it was called the Chairman's Award, it was hard to explain to people because people are like, Chairman's Award, what is that? What does that mean? It's the highest honor. What's this all about? But the Impact Award it's the team who makes the most impact. And I really love that. I know a lot of Hall of Fame teams kind of talk about the impact statements or like the BAM points. And so I think that's really cool. But I know you wanted to talk to us about some of the myths of the Chairman's Award. So I don't know, Rachel, do you want to like kind of tee this up about like the idea, because like the misconceptions people have about this award?
Yeah, there's actually a lot of them. I was counting, like we brainstormed a list of over 20 myths. And I think if you need the too long didn't read version, it's be yourself, be your team, and have fun. I think those are the messages you're going to hear over and over tonight.
That's such a, it's like that's specific to the Impact Award, but I think that's just good advice in general. If you think about for folks, who are like in Natalie's position right now, you're graduating high school, you're in Shorya's position, you're kind of figuring out what to do next, or in Ruhi's position, trying to figure out what to do after you graduate. A lot of times it's like, oh, I'm just going to do the job because there's the most money in this field or whatever. But that's such a trap. Because it's like, how are you going to, this is how you're spending 40 hours a week out of 168 for the rest of, not the rest of your life, but like the next 45 years kind of thing. Mm-hmm. And so you really need to be true to yourself. And I know from 1114's perspective, the team I used to mentor, who's in the Hall of Fame, at first, Chairman's was a chore. It wasn't fun. People were very out of it. And then eventually the team said, we're not doing anything unless we're into it. So it went from showing up at parades and things, which the kids weren't super into, just like, we're going to focus on robot related resources because that's our thing. And other teams might have seen that as like, oh, well, we should do robot related resources too. It's like, no, you got to do your thing. You got to figure out what you love.
Exactly. And that's the message that we hope to hit home tonight. Focus on what you enjoy doing, what your team enjoys doing, and what's needed in your community.
All right. So let's start going through these myths like one by one. Let's knock them off the list, All right, in-person versus virtual. Who's going to tell us about this one? I see lizards in this picture. I see Gecko.
Yep, we'll take this one.
So we believe that you use what works best for your team. We go by quality over quantity. So there are some situations where we have to use our virtual outreach with people. For example, the school in Holdfast in Canada, we couldn't fly there. It wasn't physically possible for us to do that. So virtual came in handy for us. But overall, our team functions better when we use in-person outreach. But that isn't necessarily true for every other team.
Yeah, and I think a big part of that is there's probably some teams who are like in urban centers, some teams who are more rural. So this virtual stuff, which kind of came about largely because of the pandemic, now can be leveraged in a lot of different ways, right?
Oh yeah, for sure.
Okay.
and I think that this last year, sorry, if I can add on real quick, last year in particular, we saw a lot of teams where it varied a lot. Some teams were able to be in person a lot more than others. Just depending on the different restrictions in your part of the world. Australia had some pretty big lockdowns at some points in time. Other times we were more open because there were no COVID cases due to our strict quarantine regulations. And I think the judges really did take all that into account. So, if your team couldn't do a lot in person, you had a lot of virtual during the pandemic, don't be scared to lean into that. You did what you needed to do to get through that. So just tell your team story.
Yeah, and for the Ontario perspective, last year the Ontario winner, first FRC team 1305, Ice Cube, they presented remotely at the championship because they weren't able to travel to the championship because of the restrictions of that time. So it goes a lot of different ways. All right, what's the next myth, folks?
International outreach. Do you have to do this? So basically, the simple answer is no, you don't have to, but if it's feasible and if it's accessible to you, go for it. But our team, it doesn't really work for us. We're from a small rural community. So we basically focus in our community, and we've created like a niche in our community based on our vision. So basically, we've used what we were given and we were able to make the biggest impact we could. So we started in our small community, and now we're reaching out into the Appalachian region just because it's more accessible to us.
So that's like another example of quality over quantity, right?
Oh yeah, for sure. So if you look at the map on the slides here, you can see that where all of these lines seem to like intersect, that's where we're located. And we travel to all the areas where the arrows are pointing, and that's what works for our areas because they're a lot similar to like the area that we live in. So we work best in those kinds of areas, but that might not be true for every other team. They might be able to have connections and the funding to travel internationally.
Yeah, and I think, when you think about the Impact Award, every team has a different set of circumstances. Every team has a different set of resources and such. And I might be jumping ahead here, but it doesn't matter where those resources are. You have to make it work within you. I'm afraid I'm jumping ahead. I'm going to stop myself right here. Anyone else have anything to add on international? Okay, then let's jump on. Next myth. Let's just knock them off. Funding Oh, look, see, I was jumping ahead. There you go. Funding matters. Who's touching this one?
So for GACO, we don't have any like big name sponsors. We focus on getting out into the community to show people that, hey, we're a team that wants to do stuff for our community, get kids involved. And that usually brings funding our way that helps us to build on our vision and supports everything that we end up doing.
See, this is a really interesting one because there's always the myth, you go to the championship event and people are always like, oh, yeah, it's going to be another team with this sponsor who wins it, or it's only going to be a team from an affluent school district, or it's only going to be a team, like with the six-figure funding and the such. But the judges really are looking for what you're doing within your own resource level, and it's scaled that way. I don't know if one of the other Hall of Fame members wants to touch on that.
We'll go ahead and add one more thing. So if you look at these pictures here on the slide, those are our free resource centers. So basically we go into our community and make a difference within our community. So whenever different businesses or different people see us making a difference for the kids, they're like, oh yeah, like we'll support funding. And win-win partnerships are also very beneficial.
Is that a giant Lego mat that you kind of made out there? What is going on?
So that there is a math maze. So if you look at the close one, you can only cross a red line and then a blue line. So students have to employ computational thinking skills to solve it. And the one in the back, it's harder to see, but that one you can only take left turns in. You can't take right turns. So students really have to think and use their computational thinking skills to solve them.
That is very cool. That is very cool. Anyone else want to talk about funding matters?
I mean,
I can kind of
go ahead, Ruby.
Oh, I was gonna jump in here. So for when I was on the team on Bacon, our budget was around the 60K range. And I'm sure some teams hear that number, they're like, that's nothing at all. I have no idea how you could build a robot with that amount of money and do all of the outreach, while others are, wow, you're hitting those high numbers. So when you think about the resources that you've been given and thinking about how relative it is, You know, for us, we would walk in and say 60K is much lower than the teams that we'd see in our area, considering that we'd have to pay for our own build space and pay rent because we weren't a school team. So different circumstances like that, that is kind of what it's up to your team to explain within the impact award. And I think that's something that's specifically in a couple of the new executive summary questions as well, where you're able to provide the background from where your team is coming from. Because 60K maybe as a surface number seems incredible, right? But, you know, given our restrictions, given our resources, we kind of have to qualify that number with what we're able to do. So the more information, the more background that when you're able to kind of attach to the funding, and even, you know, this goes into more of the business operations of a team almost in that allocation, that's kind of where you can show how your money is actually going towards impacting people and what you're able to do and how you are able to be savvy. Because I believe like every team is savvy in their own way, because money seems to always be somewhat of a limit.
All right, that's interesting. And you mentioned the executive summary questions. Hall of Famers, you have a resource the Hall of Fame does about this, right? See some head nods.
Yes, that's correct.
And
we talked about them extensively on one of our previous episodes on First Canada Live. So double plug there.
There we go. Boom, boom, boom. And people can find that resource at
Hall of Fame. Oh, Elise is going to be so mad. It's either firsthalloffame.org. I believe that's where you can find it.
Awesome. Thank you, Rachel. All right. Next myth. It's not worth applying.
I'll take this one. So oftentimes we hear this when we do go out and talk to teams that, oh, you know, it's not even worth our team applying. It doesn't matter. We don't do as much as all those teams you see winning. We don't have the mentor support. I hear that from a lot of students when they were out in the community talking. And both of those things, I just don't believe that they're true. Every team has a unique story, and the term or impact, we're going to get there, folks. We're going to get there, calling it the Impact Award. The Impact Award is about telling your story to the judges, and it's about the impact you are making in your community. It's also just a really good process to go through, even if it's you don't think you're going to win the award. Going through that process can really help your team look at where you currently are, the strengths that you have, the weaknesses that you have, and how you can move forward and have a larger impact in your community. You know, we've already talked a little bit about the executive summary questions, and it's a really the new ones, I think, really do give your team that space to reflect on where you are as a team.
Makes total sense to me. There's just so much that can be gained from the process. Anyone have anything else to add there? All right, jumping on to the next one, that next myth. Hard luck stories. Does everyone need a hard luck story?
I think that this is a very challenging thing to talk about, because when your team is given an opportunity, of course, make the most of it, take advantage of it. So it's really dependent. And I think that this is a very generalized myth in the Impact Award in general. It's your team is being directly compared to the teams at your event, and your stories are going to be directly compared to other teams. But when you think about these hard luck stories, it's an opportunity that a team got and they were able to make the most of it. And that seems like it can be much more impactful, whether you're qualifying that or quantifying that with end results. However, when you're looking at the opportunities that your team has and the impact that you can have on that, it's more about what are you able to do? Again, this is what we've been talking about with the resources that you've been given. And, you know, hard luck does come in different shapes and forms. Every team has overcome something. Some people might have a, you know, for example, for us, we weren't a school team, and that was seen as a benefit in some ways. We were able to recruit all over the Central Florida area, students and mentors. And then that's also a negative where we don't have a huge structure of support, where we have an endless pipeline of students, right? And when you can see both sides of that coin and effectively communicate that, I think that that's the best way to share what some of those shortcomings of your team and the challenges that your team has faced over a season or over multiple seasons.
Ruhi, I think you said something that was really important there. You said a lot of things that are really important, but about the comparison from team to team. I think sometimes teams who are competing for the Impact Award get a little bit too caught up in what have the other teams in the region done and how do we top that? And as much as this is a competition, and it is a competition, let's not kid ourselves here. It is it's more about being the best team that you can be within your resources and your set of things, as opposed to trying to one up another team and like trying to, check boxes or whatever. It's like, oh yeah, they did it international, or oh, they told a story about how their shop burnt down. Our shop needs to burn down for us to win, or something stupid like that, So it's about doing things on your own terms. Anyone else to add on hard luck stories, Rachel?
And
No, I was going to say you actually are going to segue perfectly into the next slide.
Oh boy, let's do it.
Are copying previous winners. Just like we just talked about. And again, be yourself and be your team. What makes your team unique? And for us, that really turned into remembering what our mission, vision, and core values are. So everything you do should be in service of those. So, there's always that, right? Oh, 1902 did this, and 1816 did this, and 1629 did this. We have to do those. Just no, it's not. Number one, it's not going to be fun for your team because you're not doing something that is needed in your community or fits well with your team. And two, where's the innovation in that? Innovation is always rewarded. Find a need in your community and figure out how you can work on that.
I kind of want to add.
Go, Ruhi, please.
I wanted to add a story of a personal experience that after my first year of being a chairman's preventer, I was my second year of high school. One of the strategies and things that we took up in the off season was to print out every single essay of the past regional winners. And so we did our own Chairman's Award scouting, if you will, and we read through every winner's essay from the previous year and was like trying to find a pattern. I mean, I'm a very analytical person, and we were trying to crack chairmans, and I think that there was something to it. I'm sure his communication styles were different, and there's so much variety across the board that was inherent, that was very apparent. But the most value and the most pride that I felt from what we were sharing through the Impact Award came from when we were building on the programs that we had worked on for many, many years. And I think that goes back to whatever niche you found in your community that worked well for you, that meant the most to your community. When we built on that and found a way to scale that in a way that was more impactful, that's kind of where we hit our sweet spot in terms of making sure our impact was well valued, as opposed to, we went through and with colored highlighters and going through essays and figured out trying to find the best way to win. And, that is not the way that I think that led us to the right track.
Most fun new events or thinking how to do something different come from when a student says, well, what if we did this? I mean, our team was just at the Children's Hospital has an in-house TV show, and that literally started when a kid came to a meeting and said, hey, someone is doing a card donation. Wouldn't it be cool if we went to and did that? And because they had that idea, here we are 6 years later, still going to Star Studio at Children's Hospital. So
very, very cool.
Yeah.
I would add that the copying previous winners piece not only applies to what you do to earn the award, but it also applies to your submission. Too often I see, it's the trend, it always happens. In year X, some team wins Chairman's Now the Impact Award, and they have a really cool video. And then all of a sudden, every video for the next 3 years looks like their video. It gets played at championship and everyone's like, oh, we have to do this. We have to do this. And it's like, and everyone kind of rolls their eyes when they see the videos. Like, I've seen this before. Or someone has a neat theme, it's like the recipe for success. Hot used that as their theme when they won in 2005. And then there was 87 new variants of the recipe for success, the ingredients for success. And it's like, come on, what are we doing here? And number one, the judges notice they have brains and they have memories. And number two, like Rachel said, you're going to be more passionate about something that's yours, that you own, that's original. So don't obviously don't plagiarize. Plagiarism is bad. But number two is come up with your own sort of thing. Anything else on copying previous winners? All right, next myth. The same teams win every year. And okay, I'm just going to talk as a mathematician here for a second before we start that. That's not actually possible because otherwise new teams wouldn't win. So who wants to take this one?
Yeah, I'll take that. That was my first talking point. there are new teams that win every single year. And I put a picture of our first ever Chairman's Award back in 2008. And none of those students were on the team when we won the Chairman's Award for a second time in 2012. And none of the students that won it back then were on the team when we won it in 2019. So every year, each team is different. Each team has their own story. So you have a new story every single year. So although some teams might win year over year, there are new teams that win every single year. So don't let that stop you from applying and submitting.
Yeah, and I think this goes back to Ruhi's point of trying to crack chairmans. You analyze a bunch of essays and stuff, and I know I have looked at for patterns of when teams will win and trying to do it like, is there like can you do an ELO ranking of chairmans, trying to calculate this sort of stuff and whatever. And it's like every year a team wins somewhere, and it's just like, oh, I was not expecting that at all. It's not super predictable. And it's because teams change, presenters change, things change. And also it's not being judged. It's being judged by different people in different cities across the globe. So it's, a lot of things can go on there. And so the idea that the same teams are going to win over and over again, some teams will consistently win for a period because they have a great system and they're doing amazing things. And that's a good thing. We want those teams to be recognized. We obviously want the teams with the most impact to be recognized. But there's never been a guarantee. I know in Ontario, a few years back in 2019, Team 5672 from Manitoulin Island, the same island that Lindsay is from for earlier on the show. Small team, small island, very remote. They won at a district event. And everyone's like, how did this team win at a district event? There's so many big teams at this event. And then they won at provincials. And everyone's like, how did this team win? And then they got an honorable mention at Worlds, or a finalist. Finalist was the term, not honorable mention. See, things change. But it's because they told their own story, their own passionate story. And everyone I've talked to who's seen that presentation says it brought them to tears. It was just amazing. It's like, be yourself, and it doesn't have to be the same teams who win every year. So that's my little story. What's up next, folks? Oh, themes.
Themes. You touched on it earlier, and I was hoping this was going to be the next slide. You would give us another great transition. So lots of teams ask, so do we need a theme? Do we have to go dressed up in scuba gear? Or should we go the opposite direction and go in our suits and ties that are in our team colors and dresses that are color coordinated? The answer is both can work. Go as much as you shouldn't copy other teams. It is a good thing to go look at previous winners and get some ideas. You can see 27 when they won Chairman's Championship. They all dressed up as airline pilots, and they had a presentation that was very much theme based. 3132 was not that team. It just was not who we were. We would go in our team shirts, jeans. My one recommendation is don't have anything you can fiddle with. But that's because that's who our team was it just felt more authentic to us. The other thing I wanted to touch on is the difference between themes and what we call gimmicks. And gimmick is a very strong term, but a gimmick would be something I would call, having a much more, or maybe themes versus analogies. That's a better way of putting it. So an analogy is we're going to compare our team to something. So our team did this when we were younger. One of our analogies was we compared ourselves to the icons of Sydney. So we were like the Sydney Harbor Bridge, and that we were connecting different places and people, and we were like the Opera House, and I forget what way. We found that took a lot of our time to explain to the judges, and so it just wasn't worth it. That might work really well for your team, but it didn't for us. And so in the end, we ended up switching to a theme. And it ended up being the same theme for the last 2 or 3 years that we applied for the Chairman's Award, because it was the Chairman's Award, not the Impact Award at the time. And that was STEM for everyone, everywhere, which was our team's mission statement. If you go back and look at our previous submissions that are up, you'll see the words everyone, everywhere throughout the submission numerous times. The team was really, really excited when in 2016, Dean came and even said everyone, everywhere in his closing speech at championship, because we just felt like we'd been saying these words over and over, and they'd just gotten into people's mindset. So themes, analogies, figure out what works best for your team. You don't have to wear a costume. You don't have to wear a suit. You don't have to wear your team shirt. just figure out what's going to be the most authentic experience for your team and be memorable for the judges.
I love it. Be authentic and memorable. That's just great advice in general. Anything else on themes?
Yeah, I would like to add.
So one of the things that has worked for GACO is each year we take our vision and we think of a fun way that we could present it to the judges. That's kind of a theme. And it also kind of helps to motivate us through the season to get our slides together for our presentation. And then we have usually a fun display that engages people at our pit area. So sometimes it works for like our team, but it might not necessarily be true for other teams as well.
Yeah, I think that's what it comes down to. What works for your team?
Yeah, I also think that, you know, on teams where you might not have a separate chairman's group, a separate group of kids that can spend all of build season, you know, grinding out a submission and then grinding out, you know, an actual presentation, we would spend a lot of time. We were one of the theming teams, and we would spend a lot of time over a couple words here and there in a line to make sure that it fits the entire message. And, you know, in retrospect, when I think about the amount of time that we had, you know, it was a luxury to be able to invest that time into theming and to prop building and imagery and all of that. That is who Bacon is, you know, through and through, an imagery bounded team. But if that is not a resource that you have, that's, I don't think, a wise investment of your time and energy, especially for one or two words or a line in a skit, in a presentation that, you know, that's not exactly what you want the judges to take away as the most important message as well. So that is the caveat that I think that, you know, thinking back to where we invested our time when it came to presentations for Bacon.
I will add also that it's better to do no theme than a bad theme or a half-hearted theme, where you're kind of like, yeah, this is our theme, but it's like, you know, and like you say the word like once or twice, make a pun and like call it a day. Like,
I would add to that an overused theme. There are some themes that just I judged Impact last year as a Rachel, and you know, by the fifth team we've seen with the same theme, it doesn't make you memorable anymore.
Just to add another point onto there, we found that oh no, I lost my point. Never mind.
We'll come back to you, Ava. We'll come back to you if you come back. But let's see, next myth, second last one. Starting teams. How many teams do you need to start to win this award?
There's no minimum, there's no maximum, no threshold. Instead, what I would encourage you to do is evaluate your community needs. A good example is we have a metro team here in the Twin Cities, and they always say we're one of the largest school districts, so we have 40 Lego teams. That makes a lot of sense. If you have 20 elementary schools, that tracks. However, if you go up north, smaller team, and they say we have one Lego team, you know, understanding you can't compare apples to apples numbers wise, but there is that question, we talked about it earlier, and in the executive summaries where you can describe your community. Use that executive summary to tell the judges and put in context what your community is. So you can say, our community is this large, we have this many schools, and that really helps kind of frame it up for the judges. Along with that, know the definitions. We say this every year, understand what start versus mentor or support means. And that's important so the judges can compare what your start so everyone has the same start definition or mentored.
Yeah, and you know, if FRC teams spend so much time building robots and reading the manual and going through definitions on the robot side, you need to pay the same amount of attention, if not more, to the definitions for the Impact Award, because it really does help the judges evaluate and make turn some of those apples to oranges comparisons to like apples to apples comparisons if you do it properly.
But I will say there's never a moment where we, you know, as judges would go, all right, well, you know, this team started 10, but this team only started 8. So, you know, deduct some points. That does not happen. It's all about putting it into context.
All right, let's check out our next myth.
All right, so for this one, I think that the myth here is that you need to be constantly talking about what you're doing to, you know, outside of the judging room so that you're gaining a lot of recognition and doing a lot of work at events, you need to be a visible person a visible team that's the right person for the Impact Award. And I think that, there's an aspect of that as, hey, you want to be a gracious professional team. You want to be a team that's, proud to win the award, and your community is proud to have your team earn the award. But I think there's a distinction between that and something like all of our efforts need to be focused on visible efforts. And I think that distinction, it's something that we talked about heavily on Bacon. One of our largest outreach methods was when we created First Like a Girl, and that was fully a social media campaign. And so a lot of our groundwork was done at events, and we were talking to teams and trying to get them involved. But I think even more so than that, much of the work and the groundwork that we were doing was during the off season. And for a while, we didn't want the Exploding Bacon tag to be affiliated with that program, just because that was a program that we were so proud of having major impact, that it wasn't important for us that it was recognized as a very Exploding Bacon thing. And of course, we'll take credit for it in the chairman's room, and we definitely did. But I think that there's a difference between communicating something without being authentic and about what you're communicating, and actually, being able to communicate the impact that you were able to do with a lot of pride. And so kind of that, showism there, if you will, of whether what you're communicating and the way that you're doing it is, authentic to who you are. I think it's a fine line and a confusing line sometimes, but, it's not a must do when it comes to marketing or advertising.
Yeah.
I would add on there also that your team, you don't have to, like, if you give a list of all the events you've done, you don't have to list everything you've done for every event. So if you put up posters around your school to advertise your open house, we just care that you had an open house as judges much more than we care that you put up posters for the event. So try and make sure you're focusing on each event and each activity with where the impact is, not every little minute thing you did for it.
And remember, it's not a rubric for this award. It's just not a checklist that the judges are like reading through your essay and trying to, this is not like your history paper that you're handing in to make sure that you covered this, and this. It's not a one size fits all. Hall of Fame teams, we could probably talk on this for hours and hours, but if teams want to reach out to the Hall of Fame more ways, there's the website, and then there's social media as well. Social media handles.
Yes, that is correct.
I believe we are first HOF, HOF, and that's on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram.
All right, and there's a bunch of resources out there. Also on the first official YouTube channel, there is the chairman's chat, which we call the impact chat from last year. That's always a good one to, find out some more information. But reach out to your local Hall of Fame team. They are there to help and will support in your efforts as you're trying to figure things out as you work through your Impact Award submission. So Ava, Natalie, Sarah, Ruhi, Rachel, thank you so much for coming on the show again. We love that the First Hall of Fame supports First Canada this way, and thank you for all the tips and advice.
Thank you.
Awesome. Shorya, what was your favorite part of all that? What did you learn there?
There was so much, but like I love the part where it was like you don't have to like there's so much I love like the part where it was like you don't have to list everything about every event. Like I know when we did chairman's a couple of years ago, we were trying to like say everything we did so we like could show off like we did this and that, but like it's really about like the main events that you're mainly proud of and that you want to like have represented as your team. And I thought that was super important.
And I think, it's interesting that we were talking scholarships earlier, and then we talked Impact Award today, but all the advice the Hall of Fame just kind of gave about the Impact Award and the submissions applies to everyone's scholarship applications that they're working on, their university applications and their job applications. Like with your resume, they say 1 page. You cannot possibly get everything in, like every club, every sort of award you've ever won. You've got to pick and choose. And it's the same sort of thing with the Impact Award. That's why I love that award so much, because there's so many real world lessons that come from going through that process. So thank you to the First Hall of Fame. This was a fun show. I had a good time. We should probably just do like a Stranger Things podcast separate with Shorya, just to like do a
I
review
definitely
or whatever.
should.
We should a youth council special. Maybe we should do some TikToks on that. That's what we could do.
Yeah.
It'll be a good time. Hey, thanks everyone for tuning in. Next week we have got the youth council. We got a youth council panel coming on. Are you coming back for that, Shorya? 2 weeks from now, not next week.
No, I'm not.
Okay, but some of your other co-youth council members will be here, so that'll be really cool. I think they're going to be talking about getting your team up and running in this, back to in-person events and all that sort of stuff. We'll also be talking about the First Robotics Canada Honor Roll, which will be really interesting, a new initiative by First Canada, so you can learn all about that in 2 weeks. In the meantime, folks, stay safe out there. Have a very happy Halloween. Enjoy all your candy and maybe binge Stranger Things over the weekend. It's a good spooky show to watch for Halloween. All right, folks, we will see everyone in 2 weeks. Also, happy Diwali, everyone. Hope you had a good time yesterday. All right, have a good one. See everyone soon. Bye, folks.